Trapped beneath Wales, the Ogof Ffynnon Ddu cave rescue. Nestled within the Banau Brycheiniog, formerly known as the Brecon Beacons, lies a hidden marvel of geological and speleological significance. Ogof Ffynnon Ddu, translated from Welsh as the Cave of the Black Spring, is not merely a natural formation. It is a vast subterranean network that courses through ancient limestone strata, carved over millennia by water and time. Discovered in 1946, this complex cave system stretches over 50 kilometers in length and reaches depths exceeding 300 meters, making it the deepest cave in the United Kingdom. Revered for its challenging vertical drops, submerged tunnels, and narrow crawl spaces, it is a destination frequented by experienced cavers and scientific researchers alike. In October of 2021, this geological labyrinth became the focal point of one of the most complex cave rescue missions in British history. What began as a recreational expedition swiftly escalated into a prolonged and perilous struggle for survival, testing the endurance, coordination, and ingenuity of the nation's most elite volunteer cave rescue units. Ogof Ffynnon Ddu forms part of the National Nature Reserve, located near Penwilt in Powys, South Wales. The cave is etched into the Carboniferous limestone of the region, shaped by the relentless passage of underground rivers and glacial meltwater over hundreds of thousands of years. Its interior is a textbook of geological phenomena. Razor-sharp bedding planes, flowstones, stalagmites, and phreatic passages offer insight into both ancient climatic conditions and ongoing geomorphic processes. The cave's vertical and horizontal elements intersect in unpredictable ways, creating a multidimensional maze that disorients the unfamiliar and demands utmost respect from even seasoned explorers. Mapping and exploration efforts, led largely by volunteer speleological societies, have uncovered complex hydrological patterns and rare subterranean ecosystems. However, the same features that make Ogof Ffynnon Ddu a marvel of natural science also render it inherently dangerous. Rockfalls, flooding, and sudden shifts in temperature are not anomalies, but rather part of its ever-changing character. For this reason, expeditions into the cave are recommended only for those with extensive training, proper equipment, and an understanding of the environmental risks. On the weekend of October 30th, 2021, a group of experienced amateur cavers organized a descent into Ogof Ffynnon Ddu. While early reports circulated by media outlets characterized the event as a caving rave, a phrase that sparked considerable controversy, it soon became apparent that the group was engaged in a private, recreational caving trip, not a commercial or unauthorized gathering. The group comprised individuals well versed in the complexities of cave navigation. They had entered through Top Entrance, one of the primary access points to the system, with the intent of exploring deeper passages and perhaps testing endurance routes over an extended period underground. Each member of the party was equipped with standard caving gear, waterproof overalls, helmets fitted with LED headlamps, harnesses, ropes, and survival packs containing energy-dense food, thermal blankets, and communication devices. What they did not anticipate, however, was that deep within the subterranean corridors, one misstep would trigger a chain of events that would demand not only personal resilience, but a nationwide emergency response. The cavers descended into the heart of Ogof Ffynnon Ddu, navigating a path that would take them through an unforgiving subterranean landscape shaped by millennia of geological activity. The entryway, narrow and steep, quickly gave way to a sequence of low-ceilinged crawlways, vertical drops, and labyrinthine corridors. Progress was slow and methodical. The group utilized hand lines and fixed ropes to maneuver steep inclines and tight squeezes, their paths illuminated only by the dim, flickering beams of helmet-mounted lights. Each movement required calculation, each foothold a decision made with safety and stability in mind. As they ventured deeper, the air grew cooler and damper. Condensation clung to their overalls, and the echo of dripping water reverberated off ancient stone. The atmosphere within the cave, though awe-inspiring, was relentless, its silence broken only by the sound of boots scraping over rock and the low murmur of underground streams. For seasoned cavers, such conditions are not unfamiliar. Yet, amid the darkness and the silence, risk is a constant companion, ever present, awaiting only a moment's inattention. Hours into the exploration, deep within a remote section of the cave, the expedition took a tragic turn. One of the cavers, an experienced individual in his 40s, lost his footing on a slick incline and fell several meters down a jagged drop. The impact was severe. He suffered multiple injuries, including suspected spinal trauma, rib fractures, and head injuries. The terrain offered no space to move freely, let alone to self-evacuate. Immobilized and in excruciating pain, he lay curled in an awkward recess of the cave, his breathing labored and his consciousness fading in and out. The group immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. They administered rudimentary first aid, stabilizing his position and shielding him from the cold, while discussing the next course of action. It became evident that external help was not just necessary, it was urgent. One caver, uninjured and familiar with the way out, volunteered to retrace their steps to the surface. It was a journey that would take several grueling hours through treacherous, narrow passages, but it was the only option. The others remained behind to care for the injured man, their headlamps casting uncertain light on a scenario that had swiftly become a race against time. Emerging from the underground maze well after nightfall, the messenger stumbled into the cold air of the Welsh hillside. Disoriented, fatigued, but driven by urgency, they managed to reach a signal zone and contacted emergency services at approximately 8 p.m. The call was immediately relayed to the South and Mid Wales Cave Rescue Team, SMWCRT, a specialized unit of highly trained volunteers with extensive experience in subterranean emergencies. Upon hearing the details, the team initiated a full-scale mobilization. Within the hour, the rescue began to take shape. Vehicles carrying medical supplies, rigging equipment, communications gear, and dozens of rescue personnel converged on the site. The operation was officially underway, but the scale of the challenge ahead was only beginning to reveal itself. By midnight, the cave rescue operation had escalated into one of the largest and most complex of its kind in British history. Over the course of the following hours, more than 250 cave rescue volunteers from across England, Wales, and even parts of Ireland assembled at the site. Each rescue team brought specialized capabilities: vertical ropework experts, cave medics, riggers, logistics coordinators, and technical advisors. The base camp transformed into a hive of controlled activity. Maps of Ogof Ffynnon Ddu were unrolled across makeshift tables. Routes were traced, communication protocols established, and equipment meticulously tested. Cooperation was paramount. With limited access points and confined passageways underground, the operation required precise coordination. Teams would enter in staggered shifts to avoid congestion and reduce risk. Every phase, reaching the casualty, stabilizing him, and then extricating him through kilometers of hazardous terrain, had to be carefully planned, rehearsed, and executed. The rescue effort was no longer simply about extraction. It had become a logistical symphony underpinned by science, skill, and unwavering resolve. Inside the cave, rescue teams began the process of carefully reaching the injured man. The environment was oppressive: claustrophobic tunnels that forced rescuers to crawl on their stomachs, chambers where ambient temperatures dropped to just above freezing, and river passages where hypothermia was a constant threat. Reaching the casualty took nearly 12 hours. When the first medical team arrived, they immediately conducted an on-site assessment. The injuries were severe but survivable, provided continuous care was maintained during the extraction. Pain management, hydration, and spinal protection became the top priorities. A specially designed cave stretcher, fitted with suspension harnesses and padding, was brought in. Rescuers constructed temporary anchors, belay systems, and even miniature haul and lower mechanisms to navigate vertical shafts and tight bends. Progress was slow, deliberately so. Each meter of transport presented new challenges: sudden elevation changes, flooded sumps, jagged rock ledges, and places so narrow the stretcher had to be tilted or momentarily disassembled. Yet, with each shift change, the casualty moved a little closer to the surface, his life sustained by a chain of volunteers who passed him hand to hand through the bowels of the earth. The operation evolved into a marathon of endurance. Over the course of 54 continuous hours, rescue teams worked in rotation, navigating extreme conditions to move the injured man, George Linnane, an experienced engineer and veteran caver, toward the surface. George had been part of a routine recreational trip when the fall occurred. Despite sustaining a broken jaw, spinal fractures, and multiple rib injuries, his mental clarity and resolve never wavered. Conscious for most of the ordeal, he displayed remarkable composure, often conversing with his rescuers and cracking subtle jokes to ease the tension. Each shift covered only a few hundred meters. The route included over 600 meters of vertical and horizontal challenges, tight squeezes that required advanced rigging, muddy climbs that had to be negotiated with makeshift pulleys, and vertical pitches that demanded absolute synchronization. Teams came from across the UK: the South and Mid Wales Cave Rescue Team, the Yorkshire-based CRO, Cave Rescue Organisation, Derbyshire Cave Rescue Organisation, and more. These volunteers, many of them professionals in other fields, set aside their lives to assist a fellow caver in peril. Each moment underground was meticulously documented. Teams used printed cave maps, laser rangefinders, and even underground radio systems like the Nicola radio to maintain intermittent communication with surface command. All the while, medics kept a constant vigil over George's vital signs. He was wrapped in thermal insulation and administered fluids and analgesics. A warming blanket powered by portable batteries was deployed, crucial in preventing the onset of hypothermia. The cave, though timeless and indifferent, had become a crucible of human cooperation, willpower, and compassion. Above ground, the atmosphere was tense and surreal. The base of operations, located near Penwilt, resembled a forward operating camp. Tents housed medical stations, supply stores, communications gear, and resting areas for the exhausted rescuers. Family members of George Linnane waited anxiously, comforted by both the professionalism of the responders and the growing media attention, which was carefully managed to avoid sensationalism. The British Cave Rescue Council, BCRC, issued measured updates, ensuring that the public remained informed without compromising operational security or the integrity of the mission. A sense of reverence prevailed. No one spoke of failure. All were focused on endurance. Meals were prepared on site for volunteers, donated by locals and caving clubs from across Britain. Supplies such as batteries, dry suits, medical gear and ropes were replenished continuously through coordinated drop-offs and deliveries. Even as fatigue set in, morale held firm. This was a mission not only of physical skill but of collective spirit, a reflection of the caving community's unbreakable bond. In the early hours of November 8, 2021, after more than 2 days of grueling effort, George Linnane was finally brought to the surface through CWM-DWR, an alternate cave entrance chosen for its easier terrain and accessibility for the final stages of the stretcher operation. The moment he emerged was met with hushed silence, then an eruption of applause and relieved laughter. George, conscious and smiling faintly through his injuries, was immediately stabilized and transferred to an awaiting air ambulance. He was flown to the University Hospital of Wales in Cardiff, where he received intensive treatment. Over the weeks that followed, he would undergo multiple surgeries and physiotherapy. Yet his survival, under such extreme conditions, was hailed as miraculous. The rescue had lasted 54 hours. It involved 250 volunteers, 17 cave rescue teams, dozens of support personnel, and countless hours of planning and execution. It was the longest cave rescue in British history, and by all accounts, an extraordinary success. The Ogof Ffynnon Ddu cave rescue was not merely a story of danger and salvation. It was a testament to the strength of community, the precision of volunteer science, and the awe-inspiring depths of human resilience. George Linnane's survival owes itself not only to his fortitude, but to the tireless dedication of hundreds who worked in complete darkness, confined spaces, and physical exhaustion to save one life. In the aftermath, the British cave rescue system received widespread acclaim. Its decentralized yet deeply professional model of volunteerism, combining technical skill with mutual trust, proved to be a gold standard of emergency response. The incident also prompted renewed discussions about caving safety, first aid preparedness in remote environments, and the importance of clear communication between caving groups and local authorities. George himself later reflected on the experience, expressing gratitude not only for his rescuers, but for the caving community as a whole.
Ogof Ffynnon DDU remains where it has always been, carved into the Welsh hills like an ancient secret, untouched by time. Its passages still echo with the sound of dripping water and the soft crunch of boots on stone. It is silent once more, but it remembers. The story of the 2021 rescue is now part of that silence, a story told in whispered admiration by those who know the cave's power and its peril. It is a place of beauty and danger, science and mystery, exploration and respect. To descend into its depths is to step outside of time, and to return is a reminder of the courage and connection that define us, not only as explorers, but as people.